to fix it a
No,
lot.
do you fit?
I have to go over.
Okay.
Okay, so today is the 29th day of Adar, of Shvat, the last day of Shvat. Tomorrow is the 30th, the first day of Rosh Chodesh Adar, and it's the 27th of February. And we're continuing in Mitzvahs Korban Pesach, the Paschal lamb, in Derech Mitzvah Secha. And we're at the very beginning. We're trying to finish the introduction. So we saw yesterday the explanation of what we say at the beginning of the Agada from the Mishnas Chassidim, from Immanuel Chayriki, that it also aligns with the same idea that when we were in Egypt, we were in the womb of the mother.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that, again, we need to understand why we came into this position, why are we in a fetal position. But the simple explanation is because the nation is going to be born, so obviously before that it has to be in the womb. So it turns out that the womb is Egypt. That's the womb, but it's not the real womb. That's the physical feeling. In the same way when the child is born, so it's not that it really came from the mother's womb. The physical side came from there. But the real part of the child, which is the soul, what's going to develop over life, continue to develop the entire lifetime, that comes from the supernal mother, from Imaila.
That includes Nefesh Ba'amit and Nefesh Elokit both?
No, so the Nefesh Ba'amit is really from seems to be from the body. From the body. It's a higher function of the body, but it's like an animal. In that sense, man is a paradox, that more than other creatures. Says by other creatures, the spiritual part is only from the body. So it's very close. The spiritual part of other creatures, animals, is only from the body.
Yeah, right.
So they don't have an inner contradiction. But
like instinct and whatever. Yes, I
And
understand.
let's say the Lo Yehudi, Mishay No Yehudi.
so he also has a spark. So most of it is from the body. But then he also has a spark of divinity, otherwise he couldn't remain human.
What has a spark? I didn't hear.
Even a non-Jew
Has a spark of divinity.
has to have
correct,
a spark.
Correct.
Has to have a
But
spark.
if, let's say, in Tanya, if he has no Nefesh Elokit, the only Nefesh Ba'amit,
Right.
so what's the divine spark? In the Nefesh Ba'amit?
No, it's hovering above. That's why from time to time he has
Like a Russia, like a Jewish
Russia has it inside. It's just that it doesn't get any say.
But
It's
it's
completely.
that it's hovering about.
No. It's in his consciousness. That's why it says "Reshaim meleim charatot," that he's constantly regretting everything. But it's because he's like beside himself. He can't control himself. That was the state we said in Egypt, that even if you wanted to do a mitzvah, you didn't know what to do. So it was all a feeling of regret. Why am I here? In general, the feeling of slavery is that I don't have my willpower. My willpower has been taken away. And that's where regret comes from. That it's not that it really was taken away. It's not like what Hashem did to Paro, that he really took it away. It's that you've taken it away because of the decisions that you've made. The month of will is Adar, so this is the month to build willpower.
Really?
This month coming up, yeah. When we correspond all the months to the Sfirot, so there's 3 parts to the crown, and then 10 more. So we have 13 altogether. And so we have 3 parts in the crown, and then 10 more Sfirot. So that's 13. So that's all 13 months. Usually there's 12, but some years there's a Chodesh Ha'ibur, the 13th month, the first Adar. So Adar is Ratzon. And after that, Nisan is Emunah. You come from Ratzon to Emunah. It's very interesting. Okay, maybe we'll discuss it during Adar and see how it develops. So now he says, La'avin inyan ha'ibur ve'aleida, v'aktiv ani havai lo shaniti. So to understand the matter of gestation, which is ibur, when the partzuf is still inside the womb of the mother before it's come out. So this is the whole process that the Arizal developed. This wasn't clear, this whole thing. It's called ibur yenika mochin, that there are 3 stages in the development of any spiritual persona. The first one is gestation, and then there's lactation, which causes him to suckle, to receive milk, and that builds him up. and that especially builds up the feet. The lower parts need to be built up to be able to stand. And then finally there's mukhin. Mukhin is that he gets mindfulness. And that's when it's really alive. The life force is really in the mind. So the 3 stages, this is from the Arizal particularly, that you have to go through these 3 stages. So the first stage is always Ibul. Now there's people who stay in Ibul their whole life. They stay in gestation their whole entire lives. They never leave the womb because they never build anything. Unfortunately, when it comes to Yiddishkeit, we see that all the time. That's why we call it Tinok Shenishba. It's like a baby where's he?
He's captive in the womb.
He's captive in the womb still. Right? He's a fetus still.
I never thought of that.
Yeah. It's still like a state of never having been released to go into the world. Where's the world? The world is in the Torah. So obviously he's in the world. Physically he's in the world. He didn't stay in the womb. But spiritually,
analogy.
Yeah.
You explained it in 2 sentences.
Yeah, that's the reason. So he asks here, so how can we say this about Hashem? Because whenever we're talking about Zah, we're talking about HaKodesh Baruch Hu. In the Zohar, Zah is the Holy Blessed One. And it's HaKodesh Baruch Hu. He's Zah. So how can we say that about Hashem? So he says, like we say always, העניין כי באמת עצמותו יתברך מרומם ומתנשא למעלה מעלה מן 10 ספירות, שהם רק מבחינת כלים לאורו וזיוו יתברך. So the matter truly is that his blessed essence, he himself, Hashem, is exalted and elevated above and beyond the 10 sfirot. And again, the 10 sfirot is just the initial approximation in Kabbalah of what later the Arizal calls Partzufim. Then Partzufim, the personas, they each one is made out of 10 sfirot. So it's just the basic model. So whenever he says he's higher than the 10 sfirot, it means he's higher than everything we talk about spiritually. It doesn't matter with the sfirot or personas, it's all the same. So he's much higher, he's exalted, he's not the same thing, which are only vessels for his light and radiance. And this we talked about in length when we were learning Shorish Mitzvah Tefillah, when we were learning about davening. Remember, we were talking about that the vessels are like just cups, transparent cups, and then the light that comes in is like water that you put in. And we ask where the color comes from. Does it come from the water? Does it come from the cup? And so on. So sometimes, I'll just read in English, sometimes the vessels are in a state of smallness, of immaturity, and then the light also shines in them I don't know how to say this word, diminutively. Right? Smallness. Diminutive. I can say the diminutive. I can't say the diminutively. That's tougher. I have to work on that. According to what they can receive. So again, the vessel can only receive as much as it's built to receive. So if it's in a state of immaturity, so somebody who hasn't learned Torah and he comes into a shir, he doesn't understand most of it. It comes in through here, goes out through there because he's not a vessel for it. We say he's not a kli for it. He can't continue. So if the vessel itself is immature still, you put a 5-year-old in a university class, doesn't get it. Unless he's very, very talented, but even that just means that he built his vessel very quickly somehow. So you have to build a vessel. And sometimes they're in the aspect of greatness, and then the light shines in them in greatness. And so the greater the person is, the more mature he is, the more he can receive from Hashem's revelation. So there's this question about, for instance, in the Rambam says that divine providence is only upon those who are scholars. The more a person is connected to the divine consciousness, the more there is divine providence on him. And when you read it, you see that he sort of contradicts himself. Yeah, Hashgacha.
Okay, yeah.
So you see that he sort of contradicts himself. It's in the third part? The second part, the beginning of the second part of Moreh Nevuchim. You see he sort of contradicts himself. So he says one thing and then says the opposite. So the simple explanation is that it's a question of how much can you recognize Hashgacha. It's not a question of whether there is Hashgacha or not. Of course there's Hashgacha on everything. Even the Rambam will say that. But you can't recognize it because you're not a vessel for it. You can't recognize what Hashem is doing with you because you're not mature enough to see it. So to see Hashem's revelation, you have to build the vessels. That's what he's saying. And in Egypt, it was necessary for the upper attributes, which are the vessels called Ze'er and Pin, to be in an embryo state, which is the ultimate smallness, for the reason explained in the Pri Etz Chaim. So he doesn't give here the reason, but we'll talk about it later. He'll get to it later. So there's a reason why it had to be in a state of embryo. But the simple understanding is that after the time of the patriarchs, when they served Hashem out of their own goodwill, because they believed in Him, the people had to return to a smaller state, to an embryonic state, in order to receive the Torah. Without that, you can't receive the Torah, because it's a whole new thing. Whenever you are transferring into a new state, you have to first be an embryo again. You have to go into gestation again. Right. So exactly. Right. So from time to time in life, you feel that you lose a lot. You go back, and this also happens with a person's conduct. You have a good stretch, and then suddenly you feel that everything's falling apart. So it's not because everything's falling apart necessarily. It's because the last stage is over, and to enter into a new stage, you have to go back into a gestative state. Yeah, okay. Right, and that's the tzaddik.